Today, card fighters, I have an exciting deck profile to bring to you with my current take on Great Sage of Heavenly Lost Solrairon for the September format of 2024. Now, Great Sage of Heavenly Lost Solrairon is a deck that I've discussed many times on my channel, and I have a huge passion for this deck. We recently received an Illusionless Strife, two very powerful support pieces for this deck that have taken its playstyle to the next level, and a couple of generic cards that have boosted its playstyle since then. And I'm super excited to showcase you guys my current take on this deck, but you guys know what's coming before I can do that. If you enjoy seeing content like this, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and do not forget the notification bell so you guys are all up to date on my newest videos coming out. To get this deck profile started off with, I'm going to showcase the ride line for Solrairon, and I'm still playing Solrairon's ride line. Since my last deck profile, I've seen a lot of variations with Solrairon's ride line. I think that there are different routes you can go, however the one that I currently like the most is still the one that he came with. This ride line still gives you two bodies on board, a setup for your very first grade 3 turn, as well as a countercharge piece to work with. Having access to both the countercharge as well as the setup piece in case you have a bad hand to me is extremely fantastic. Solrairon is a deck that is sort of in the mid-range combo realm. You need to see certain pieces here and there, and if you have a bad hand or if you're getting rushed down really hard by decks like Shoujo Doji or you're losing your rear guards to Varga or something, you're going to need units on board to help make up for that, and the ride line has done that beautifully. We have a bunch of cards in the deck now that can also supplement Soul, so losing these two cards is not as bad as it used to be because of the different effects I can take advantage of to mitigate that issue. For my next card, we have 3 copies of the Man of the Hour, Great Sage of Heavenly Lost Solrairon. Now I'll quickly go over Solrairon's abilities, but he has 2 imperative skills. The first one gives 5k to all of your rear guards if your deck check is a normal unit, and the second ability lets you superior call something from the top 2 cards of your deck and then stack the other cards to the top or bottom. Solrairon's power bonus, as well as his multi-attack built in and the support for extra attacks in the deck has made him a very powerful contender. It's just a little bit slow compared to everything that's popular right now, but if this deck goes first and you have proper pieces set up, you're drawing into things, and you're making sure that your formation is right and you're building up power, Solrairon actually does very well as a mid-range combo deck. You're hitting the right pieces, you're making good numbers, you're checking your deck, and you're able to compress it for triggers and other normal units. You have a powerful 1-card starter in the deck now that actually makes up for you having a really bad hand or having a really defensive hand, and with that card being introduced to us, we have a lot of effects we can take advantage of now, generically speaking, for Solrairon. For my next card is my Regalia's piece. I'm playing 1 copy of Gradius Grotto still. For my next card, and still one of the most important supporting pieces for this deck, we have 4 copies of Dependable Pierce Dragon. This is a top deck checker. It lets you draw a card, stack the deck like your grade 1 Illyrion does, but it also gets 5,000 power and lets you move this card into the soul at the end of the battle list attacks. This is huge because you're probably going to use this card to generate some soul after you Solrairon's Soul Blast effect. It's a grade 3 unit that can make a magic number on its own and Solrairon's power bonus and help you, set up your plays. It's a fantastic beat stick piece as well as a great setup piece, and I still think that 4 of this card is mandatory for this deck. For my next card, and a little bit of spice that I'm trying, I'm playing 2 copies of Divine Sister Bugni. Now, Divine Sister Bugni is making her debut on this channel, but she has a very simple effect. She states, auto when this unit is placed on rearguard circle from deck, this unit gets power plus 15,000 until the end of turn. Now, Bugni is a grade 3, a much stronger version of the grade 1 unit that I used to play back in this deck in the first set that I got, the Sage of Invocation. It becomes a 28k unit when superior call from the deck, and that's what Solrairon does, and so does his support. Efful, the Dragon, as well as Solrairon are units that all call things out from deck, and because we actually have the power to stack the deck with certain pieces that we want, our chances of actually getting this off, regardless if it's our hand or not, has increased exponentially. It's a huge beat stick piece, and it fixes one of the core issues that Solrairon has, which is power in those multi-attack turns, because sometimes your grade 2 units and your grade 3s, they get 5k buffs, but you just need a really huge hitter. Even with the Solrairon power-up, as well as triggers, effects, and Persona Ride, this card kind of really helps push more in the envelope on your first Solrairon turn when you're attacking, or on your Persona Ride turns when you compress your deck enough and you get to see this card. For my next card that I'm playing in this deck, and also another tech piece, I am playing 4 copies of Denuse of Slender Sword, Diana. Diana is also making this debut on her channel, but she has a very simple but powerful effect. She states, continuous rearguard circle. If your other unit is placed on rearguard circle from the deck this turn, this unit gets power plus 10,000. Now this is huge because, like I stated with Bugni and Solrairon, is how the deck works. We call all of our units out from deck. All of our card effects are built superior call units out from the deck to stack the deck for Solrairon. Diana is a grade 2 unit that can make a magic number when she's superior called out and something else has been called out from the deck this turn besides her. You have a lot of effects in this deck that actually set up, and when called out off of the Efful skill, if you call the second unit, she'll be going right away. But the best part about her, and this is something that I actually feel like is really important to discuss with other Solrairon pieces, is the fact that because this card's a grade 2 and the effect is continuous, she's one of the few pieces you can actually commit in the early game to start attacking your opponent with prior to using Solrairon for his effect to get their body onto the board on your first turn and making good numbers. This card makes really good numbers, doesn't have a cost, and it actually fits very well with our playstyle of our deck. For my next grade 2, and one of my favorite pieces that I want to discuss right now, I am playing 4 copies of Academic of Animization Lectures. Now, Lectures is one of the new support pieces that come out in set 2, Illusion of the Strife, and we have to talk about it. This unit states, auto rearguard circle, at the end of the battle this unit attack. If a normal unit was revealed by the ability of your Vanguard with Solrairon in its card name, this turn you may cost, put this unit to the soul, countercharge 1. And if this unit is placed in rearguard circle from deck this turn, you may draw a card. Now, this card is huge for 2 reasons. The first reason is the fact that this is Solrairon's version of Turner. We can move this card into the soul at any time period as long as we get Solrairon's first effect off, which we always will, and we get to convert this card into soul and countercharge. But the benefit of this card is the fact that if we call it out from deck with one of our other card abilities, you get a draw skill on top of that. That's huge because compared to Turner, you couldn't activate it until you had 3 face down damage, which means you would have to take a lot of damage later. But on top of the fact that this card can self-replace by allowing you to draw a card, makes it huge. It's one of the best supporting resource management pieces I've seen for a Keter deck in a long time, and for Solrairon, it's perfect. It helps us draw cards, gives us soul, gives us countercharge, for pretty much doing something the deck is going to do every single turn because of Solrairon's first skill, so you'll always have access at least to the countercharge and soul charge effect all the time when this card is out. For my next card, I'm playing 4 copies of Sagely Dragon Wisdom Claw Dragon. This card was introduced to us in the prior set for Solrairon support. It is our multi-attack extender. This is how we'll be getting 5 attacks during each battle phase. He lets us check the top card of the deck, and then we can stack to call something, or we can just leave that card on top, and then he gets 5k when he himself is called out from the deck. Combine this effect with the other cards that we now have access to in this deck, I actually think that this card is really imperative to be played as 4 of. It's how you are getting your 4 attacks now. Not 4 attacks, excuse me. It's how you're getting your 5 attacks now for all of your plays. It makes good numbers, and if you don't get the counterblast skill off because you just might not have the resources for it, you at least have access to the deck check effect for your Solrairon skill if you had to shuffle for any reason, or if you just want to keep stacking your deck because you didn't like what the other cards were doing for Solrairon. For my next card, I am playing 4 copies of Divine Sister Dakvoice. Dakvoice is this deck's version of the Dragon Tree Wretch Keter card. When a unit is called out by the card effect, you get to counterblast 1 and draw a card. And then obviously it was placed by Solrairon's ability that unit gets 5,000 power. Not only is this card fantastic because we get access to it in the early game, this is another card we can commit onto the board for boosting or attacking that we have advantage of later, like we do Lectures and Diana, but also this card lets us draw cards and gives power to the units, which supplement the issue with Solrairon's low numbers when attacking. And finally, the best for last, and the most impactful and important card for Solrairon as of right now, it is 4 copies of the brand new Academic of Endeavoring Eiffel. Now, Eiffel is a support piece for Solrairon that has a very important fact that we need to discuss before talking about the card. This unit states, auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Solrairon on its card name, cost counterblast 1. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 grade 3 or less unit cards from among them, call them to rearguard circle and shuffle the deck. If you call 2 cards, choose a card from your hand, reveal it, put it on the top of the deck if it's a normal unit, and discard it if not. To make a long story short, this card is a 1-card starter for this deck. For a simple counterblast just being on Solrairon, you get 2 potential bodies onto the board, and then you get to stack your deck with a card from your hand. That is fantastic because if you draw Eiffel in your opening hand, or if you draw Eiffel in the late game and your hand is bad, you have a card that can help you get your board right, stack your deck, as well as become a booster because this card essentially becomes 3 bodies on board, and that sets your entire board up for your turn. All of our pieces in this deck that are actually really important are, grade 2 or less. You should never actually miss this. We only play 1 order in the deck, which is the Regali's order that I showed you. Everything else is going to be normals or triggers, and that's huge because we consistently have targets to go into. The stacking effect on top of the double superior call is what I really like about this card, because this superior call was cool, but being able to stack the deck as well with something from our hand means, once again, cards like Bugny, or cards like the grade 2 dragon that we might draw into, we can reset those pieces for multi-attacks or just high-powered attacks for a future play later. For my next card, I'm playing 4 normal unit Sentinels. I actually think that it's important to note that I don't play the Blitz Order Elementari in this deck. You just want to increase your chances of seeing normal units. Now, for triggers with Solrairon, I'm actually keeping it very simple like my last list. I'm playing 4 of the Effect crits, which is the Blade Feather Dragon, 4 generic crits, which is Lyrak. I play 3 draws in this deck. Now for over triggers, I finally got my money up and was able to buy one of the red OTs. And to wrap up the deck profile, I have 4 heals in this deck. I'm playing 4 of the generic heals, obviously. Now that we've discussed the deck profile of the deck, I actually want to take the time to discuss Sal Mulligan and combos and strategies and how Solrairon works. So for Mulligan with Solrairon, you're only looking at like really 2-3 cards in this deck that I want to open up with. And obviously the most important card that we want to open up with is going to be our copy of Eiffel. Eiffel, combined with our ride line, will give us a full board, a double deck stack, as well as pretty much everything we'll need going forward for Solrairon. If our hand is bad, like let's say we draw 4 triggers, but 1 Eiffel, we still have a turn, our ride line will kick in with us, give us a column, this card will go behind the Vanguard, give us another column, and it's just a fantastic setup piece to hold on to if your hand is like not looking the best, or at least if you're going to want this card for later. So Eiffel definitely, as a 1-card starter, is something you want to open up with. But outside of Eiffel, if we're going to be relying on other pieces to come later because nothing really pops off till Solrairon, then it's better to get some setup pieces, right? I think one of the cool setup pieces you can get in your opening hand is Dacois. Dacois, you can go ahead and leave this card behind your Vanguard as a booster or a rear guard to call out, because once you get your first pure call off with Solrairon's effect or the ride line, you can trigger her to give 5,000 power to your Stogron, and then, you know, draw a card to start building up your hand prior to using Illyrion. It's a fantastic setup piece to have on the board when you go into your first Solrairon turn, everything's been set up. And for that reason, I also think that Diana is a great card to open up to. Like I said earlier, this is a great unit that you can drop onto the board. If you've got like 1 hand, you can leave it out and then obviously set up your column with your ride line. But it's a fantastic piece to set up on board. It makes a really strong number on the first turn. You know, being 25k by itself while going first is huge because it requires 20k shield from your opponent. And it's just the same reason at Dacois. These 2 cards are setup pieces. This card is a 1-card starter. And I think that mulligan-wise, you want to see at least, you know, one of these or like one of these in your hand. If you open up with these 3 together, that's really strong too, because the Eiffel will just turn on the Diana prior to your effect and skill activations, or at least before, you know, you use Solrairon. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and showcase mulligans and actual test hand applications. This will give you an idea of how the deck flows in real time and like what's the expectation for my mentality when playing this deck. So Solrairon, let's say you win the dice roll, wants to go first. That's very important that you try to go first if you can for the dice roll. You need to get that power going, set up, and you make really good numbers in terms of going first when your opponent's at the 10k versus, you know, later games you trying to compete with other decks right now. So if let's say we get the win die roll, we go first, we're gonna go ahead and draw our first opening hand here. So Solrairon, the Order, Diana, Pierce, and PG. So we don't need the 2 copies of Persona right now. They do nothing for us. We don't need the PG, unless depending on your matchup, it might be different. And then Pierce I actually will hold on to, and that's only because I might need it for later depending on my board and my other soul cost cards are. That's something I would think about, but it does depend on the matchup. As of right now, we can get rid of it because I have Diana in hand, but I'm putting these 4 cards back because they do nothing for me. And let's see what we get. So we got OT, that's out the way, we got draw, we got a grade 3, and we got Dacois. So outside of drawing into the OT, which always sucks, and the draw trigger, we at least got Dacois in our hand and Diana, and like I said earlier, these are 2 fantastic set of pieces to have on the board to start attacking your opponent with and making good numbers later. Alright, so our hand is drawn, let's go ahead and get started. So we'll draw for turn, we drew it to the Dacois. I actually, depending on the matchup, will give up either the Pierogi or the Pierce. If I'm playing against the slower deck, I'll give up the Pierogi. If I'm playing against the faster deck, I'll give up the Pierce because I might need more shield value. I'm going to assume, based off the current meta, that I am playing against a faster deck, so I'll go ahead and give up the Pierce, and I will ride into my Illyrion. I get my energy generator, and then I will go ahead and pass turn. The opponent will then attack me. We'll say they're taking it slow for their turn. They attack, damage check, I get an Eiffel gone. That's okay, I've got 3 more, and then it's my turn. So I stand and draw, I get a critical here. I will go ahead and, in this case, discard my Pierogi and ride into my Stogron. I will energy charge 3, and then the effect of my grade 1 unit will go ahead and pop off. I will declare a normal unit. It is a normal unit, and I make the action of adding this card into my hand, and I'm going to call Dacois actually back here. And obviously, I don't want to lose any of my rear guards right now, depending on what I'm playing against. I like my hand currently, so I'll go ahead and just swing 18 at my opponent like this. Drive check, bug knee, that's actually pretty huge because I have Pierce in my hand right now. And then obviously the opponent will take their turn, attack me, Greatest Grottle, let's say they want to be a little bit more aggressive this time. I need 1 damage for Solrairon and 1 damage for Daquoise. I have a counter charger for that turn, so if they decide to like call out something else to rear guard, in this case I'll go ahead and let's say I block 5k with Diana, and then let's say they'll go ahead and attack me with something else, and I'll block with Lyark for 15. I will go ahead and start my turn, so then I stand my units and draw. I drew into Eiffel, which is huge. I will, for my discard, it is kind of tough right now. I have already given up a Pierce, I have a Daquoise gone. I'm not going to give up the Eiffel because I've already lost 1. So in this scenario, I'll just go ahead and give up the Daquoise and ride into Solrairon. Now before skills apply, I'll go ahead and energy charge 3, then I'll use the effect of my ride line. So Stogron and Illyrion will go ahead and come out, and I think I'm going to go ahead and call it like, my opponent's a grade 2, so we'll call it like this, and there's a particular reason why. I'll call them like this, the effect of Illyrion will kick in, so I will put to the top of my deck Bugny, I draw a card, which is a heal trigger, it's not the best, but it's not the worst, and I leave Bugny on the top. Then the effect of Daquoise kicks in, I will counterblast 1, I will give 5k to Stogron from the ability of her, and then I will go ahead and draw a card. Now the draw doesn't really matter because I'm going to also call out to my rearguard circle my dependable Pierce Dragon. Pierce will kick in, I will reveal Bugny again and draw a card. This is actually really important because now I have 2 cards in my hand that my opponent doesn't know about. In prior Solrairon plays, your hand would give away a lot of information, and that would actually kind of like ruin your plays. But after sitting here and thinking about my board just a little bit more, this will get 5k, this will get 5k. I am actually going to choose to put this card can stay here, I'm tripping. Alright, so then my battle phase will go ahead and start, so Solrairon's skill will kick in, I will Soul Blast 1, I will declare a normal unit, no surprise there that it is, and I will start attacking. I actually do have a better idea for this. I'm going to move them like this, and there's a reason why. So Pierce Dragon gets 5k from its own effect, Solrairon just gave 5k to everything on the board, which is important to remember, because for my particular attack pattern. So we're going to go ahead and have Pierce attack first, this will be 23. Pierce will go ahead, move it into the soul, then Stogron will attack. This is going to be 20 at the opponent, and then they'll go ahead, defend or whatnot. I will use the effect of this, and I will countercharge 1. And then finally, I will go ahead and attack with my Vanguard. I will then counterblast 1, look at the top 2, which is Bugny and Aegismere. And depending on the matchup, I might leave the Aegismere on top, but I want to continue to be aggressive. So I'll call Bugny here and move Aegismere to the bottom. I still got 4 attacks, and Bugny's effect will kick in, where she'll go ahead and get plus 15. And then she has the 5k from Solrairon's benefit. Now, if I wanted to and I wanted to push harder, I could use the Illyrion to have boosted the Stogron earlier. That's perfectly fine, because you know you have Bugny who's going to be huge on her own. But I left it like this because this way I can confirm damage, or at least confirm the way my opponent's going to guard. If they guarded both, I know I took out at least 15k shield from both their hands, so they have to deal with these 2 attacks, which are really huge, which are going to be a lot hard to guard. So first check here, we got the grade 2 dragon. Then second check here, we got a perfect guard. This is perfectly fine. And then the Bugny will go ahead and attack with the boost from Illyrion. So this number right now is 28 plus 5, 33, plus 13. We're looking at 56 on our opponent, which is really huge. And these 2 attacks probably confirm 2 points of damage from my end. And that's pretty much a general flow on how my Solrairon deck goes. There are other plays that I could have done if I wanted to after I made the first call. I could have just called out Eiffel and tried to compress for something better if I wanted to. But I actually, like I say, I want to hold on to this card. When the situation gets sticky, my hand isn't the best. I was able to do different plays. I have a decent sized hand to block with. I guarded earlier to keep my damage low. If I want to take the extra damage, then I probably could have held on to something like Diana over here and kept the Stogron like in the rear guard or something, or called it here, or hold on to the Pierce for later, which would have been perfectly fine. Diana would have still been a big number on her own. That's completely up to me, but I played it this way because I just want to give you guys real expectation of how matches go. I expect to play against a lot of faster decks, so I do expect to like lose more cards in my hand earlier than I did prior. But that's how I play Solrairon, guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Once again, if you enjoyed this content, let me know down in the link description below. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And on top of that, let me know what you guys think about my Solrairon build and how I can make improvements to it. This video is getting kind of long, so that's all I'm going to say. Peace.